I want to have a frank talk about consent in magic.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. On today's episode, I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about the concept of consent in magical practice. Now, where this stems from, like some of my other videos that I've talked about, is, well, TikTok. Yep, I was on Witch Talk again. And if you've been on my channel, you know that I actually am a supporter of Witch Talk, but there are some very interesting people on there. In the short video that I made on consent over on TikTok, I had a response from a person where they said that forced healing is the best kind of healing. I have very strong opinions about that. I am going to speak on a magical context, but let me take away magic for a minute and let's have a conversation about just consent in a non-magical context. So since the implementation of the Me Too movement, we have seen many more women talking about their experiences in various fields of living. And one of those fields has been in healthcare. And we are now seeing more and more women coming out and having conversations about their experience when they had to go to a hospital and were put under anesthesia for surgeries. Now, in many of these stories that I'm referring to, these women have indicated that these surgeries had nothing to do with their genital regions. Only for these women to wake up after their various procedures to find that they had been given a pelvic exam, often by multiple male doctors, without their consent. And the medical practitioners are denying that this caused harm to those women and said that their consent was not needed because they were in this healing capacity. They were performing unnecessary gynecological exams on these women without their knowledge and consent. They were traumatized from this because it is hurtful. It is a form of assault, and it should be stopped. In my opinion, that would be a perfect example of this bizarre forced healing that this commenter on TikTok was trying to refute me with. No, thank you. That is an oxymoron. Forced healing does not exist. If there is force, that is assault. If there is no consent, that is assault. If there is no knowledge, there is no consent, and therefore, say it with me, it's assault. It would be criminal in nature. Moving on, let's talk about magic now. Let's talk about consent in a magical context. For example, I tend to get headaches. One of the reasons I get headaches is that I'm just one of those people whose brain just does not understand when I am thirsty. So I don't drink enough water, and when I get dehydrated, I get a headache. And then I'm like, oh, I have a headache. I wonder if I'm dehydrated. I go and I take a glass of water, I drink it, and then a few minutes later, 15 to 20 minutes later, I feel better. Amazing, because I was dehydrated. That's why I had a headache. Another reason I get a headache is I'm a very introverted person, and you may be able to apply the label of empath to me. What an empath generally means is that I am a person that picks up on the emotional vibrations of other people. Crowley Cat was in another video. This is now Bing. She's decided that she needs to be on the Fairy Fortunes YouTube channel as well. And because of my introverted nature, sometimes those vibrations get overwhelming for me and I get a headache. Amazing. It's like I have this internal alarm system that either tells me, A, I need to get a drink of water, or B, I'm overstimulated, or maybe C, I'm both of those things. So in my case, if someone were to come along and heal my headache, and instead of taking a glass of water, I have another glass of alcohol, and I start to dehydrate myself even more. Or what if I'm overstimulated and I don't have that alarm system to say, hey, why don't you grab a glass of water and go outside for a minute to just kind of decompress because you're starting to get overstimulated. I now don't have that alarm system, and now I'm in danger of going into a full-blown panic attack that might even send me to the hospital. Panic attacks generally aren't life-threatening, although dehydration can be. But panic attacks are very traumatic, and I don't know about you, but I do not like having those in public. Remember, introverts. The point of this conversation that I'm trying to articulate is that consent is, in fact, important, because you don't have the same information that the individual has about their circumstances and their own bodies, and the traumas and past experiences that they've been through. You don't know that. No matter even if you're the greatest psychic that ever walked the face of the planet, you do not have the ability to know a person more than they know themselves. That's why consent is important. Here's another thing to think about in terms of consent. Now, some people, it is true, can be engaging in practices that are very detrimental to themselves and others. For example, addiction, okay? It is very difficult to watch a loved one struggle with some kind of addiction. There is this desire and this need driven by the love you feel for that person that makes you want to do everything in your power to help them with that addiction. But here's the thing. They are a person worthy of respect even though they have an addiction. Now, with addiction, you are fully within your rights to lay down boundaries with a person. Hey, listen, I love you. I just can't communicate with you when you are under the influence of your addiction. And I'm going to have to tell you that if I observe signs that lead me to believe that you are under the influence, I will not allow you in the home, or I will ask you to leave. You will not be allowed in my presence if you are under the influence, because I can't communicate with you, and you frighten me. You make me feel like I'm in physical danger when I'm interacting with you in that state. So I'm not going to allow you to have access to me when you're under the influence. Forcing a person who is addicted into some kind of treatment program almost never works. And it can build a lot of resentment in the relationship and worsen that relationship and possibly strengthen the addiction. We don't have to like someone's choices, but if we truly love and respect them, we allow them to be who they are and not who we want them to be. We are allowed to protect ourselves against somebody else's behavior by setting reasonable boundaries. But we don't have consent when we force someone to do something they do not think they need to do. A person with an addiction wants to use whatever that substance is, whether it's video games, alcohol, or harder drugs. They want to do it. And here's another thing. Addiction comes from a place of need. It is true that they might be trying to escape another problem, but it is their mode of coping. It doesn't make the addiction right, it doesn't make it healthy, but for that particular person in those particular circumstances that we cannot possibly know because we are not in their life, in their body, in their place in the world. A lot of people go to addiction because it's the best they can muster at that moment. And if we truly love them, we have to respect their choice to do with their body as they wish. What we want for them doesn't matter because we aren't them. And here's the reality with consent and magic. I can share with you that consent is important, that I think it needs to be respected. I feel strongly about those opinions. I do think that I am right here. But the truth is, you may not think so. You may think that forced healing is a wonderful thing, and you may decide that you're going to give me healing whether I want it from you or not. That's certainly what this person on TikTok wanted of me. They wanted to force healing. They wanted to essentially assault me. So there was a consequence to that action. I set a boundary and I denied them access to me. I blocked them because a person that thinks that consent is optional is not a person that I choose to interact with. That's a consequence of their opinion. This was kind of a heavy topic today, so I'm going to recommend that you watch my video on Hobbit Day because I think that's really cute and fun. It'll lighten the mood a little bit. And with that, my fair friends, have a magical day.